Call the meeting to order. Ask Dr. Deegan to lead us in the pledge.
For this, we have some students that would like to lead us. Can y'all join me in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Here. Ms. Highworth. Here. Dr. Bridges. Here. Mr. Jester.
Here.
Miss Edwards. Colonel Curtis.
Okay, do we have special guests and special recognitions tonight?
We have a lot of special guests tonight, and so I want to thank all the parents and students and grandparents and friends of the family that made it here tonight. Once we are done with this, we are going to excuse you. You are welcome to stay and hang out for our board meeting, but we also understand you have things to do. We're just honored that you came tonight. For all the high school principals in the room that came, once you get finished, we do have refreshments out in the hall. If you'd like to, please eat them. Otherwise, I'll eat all of them. So, but I thank you all for coming. But I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Owens, and we have with us today our National Merit Finalists, our Oklahoma Academic Scholars, our National Hispanic Scholars, Academic All-State, and Outstanding Performance on the ACT, which are the young men and women who made a 30 or higher, which is pretty darn good. Mr. Owens.
Good evening. Tonight I have the privilege of presenting some very special awards and recognition to some outstanding students. We're going to recognize our National Merit Scholar finalist, and we have one. Oklahoma Academic Scholar as recognized by the State Department of Education, we have 34. National Hispanic Scholar, and we have one. Academic All-State for Excellence in Education, we have 2. And the Outstanding Performance on the ACT of 30 or higher, and we have 16. To give you an idea of how difficult the ACT score of 30 or higher is, I compared the state average, which is 19.4, and our district average of 19.31. So this is an outstanding accomplishment. To give you an idea of how competitive the national scholarship is, I'll give you an example. Over 1.6 million students in more than 22,000 high schools entered the competition. Only 16,000 of the 1.6 million are selected as semifinalists, or less than 1% of the United States seniors. Some semifinalists are selected from the 16,000, are commended scholars and receive letters of commendation, and are candidates for special scholarships. By the conclusion of the competition, only 7,500 finalists in the United States are selected, and we have one of those. The National Hispanic Recognition Program, established in 1993, is a college board program that recognizes the academic achievements of Hispanic high school seniors and identifies them for post-secondary institutions. Approximately 4,800 of the highest scoring students from an initial pool of greater than 150,000 students are recognized as scholars or honorable mention finalists, and we have one that qualified. The Academic All-State for Excellence in Education is a highly competitive program in Oklahoma, and only 100 students are selected for this honor, and we have 2 of those scholars. Oklahoma Academic Scholar is recognized by the State Department of Education with a 3.7 or higher unweighted GPA and a 27 or higher on the ACT, and we have 34 of those. So now it's time to meet these outstanding students, and the principals will present their certificates, starting with Eisenhower, then Lawton High, then MacArthur. Ms. Oates?
Okay, Eisenhower students, when I call your name, wherever you are in the room, if you'll come forward for your certificate, and then I'd like you to stay on the floor and for however long it takes us, all the way down so you can stand to be recognized. Stephen Johnson, Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Are you here, Stephen? See, there's so many students, and they're not here yet. Paige Lewis, Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Curtis Myers, Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Daniel Sneed, Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Here. Hannah Spoon, Oklahoma Academic Scholar. All right. Colin Tu, Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Catherine Van Horn, Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Nicholas De La Rosa, outstanding performance on an ACT of 30 or higher. Nicholas, are you in the house? Avery Black is our academic all-state person from Eisenhower High School. Avery? Hey, I'm calling their names whether they're here or not. So you guys, it goes in the record, and you know how fabulous they are. And Avery is also an Oklahoma Academic Scholar, as well as our All-Stater. Brandon Duncan, Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Haley Beller, Oklahoma Academic Scholar, and outstanding performance on the ACT of 30 or higher. Not here. Paul Bellafato, outstanding performance on the ACT of 30 or higher, and Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Marina Gonzalez, outstanding performance on the ACT of 30 or higher, and Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Angel Macias, outstanding performance on the ACT of 30 or higher, and Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Ryan Pruitt, outstanding performance on the ACT of 30 or higher, and Oklahoma Academic Scholar. And Elizabeth Probst, outstanding performance on the ACT of 30 or higher, and Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Now, did anyone come in the door after I started? So, all right, they will get their certificates. Thank you once again, students, for representing us so well.
Any parents that want to snap a quick picture?
Oh, there you go.
Stand behind us if you need to. It won't offend us.
All right. Good. Thank you.
You may take a seat, just don't leave the room yet. I'm terrible at these things. Thank you all.
Hello. I'm representing Lawton High School. I'm Dr. DeLoach. All the Wolverines that are here, please come form a line. Don't worry about it. We're tough. I don't know if you heard me ask, where are they? But we can stand tall and proud with Kylie. And for the others, I will call out their names so you'll know the honors that they've won. Now, I do have one student, and I'm not going to tell you who he is, but his parents don't believe in recognition, so I'll make sure that he gets the certificates later on. But Daisy Casio, Andrew Dayhoff, and let me go back. Daisy Casio is an Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Okay. Andrew Dayhoff, outstanding performance on the ACT, a 30 plus. Andrew is also Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Ethan Liddell, Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Matthew Meters, he's Oklahoma Academic Scholar. And Matthew Paramore, Oklahoma Academic Scholar. Outstanding performance on the ACT of 30 plus, and also a National Hispanic Scholar. And then I have Kylie Ramirez. Come take a picture. Yeah. Oh. Go ahead and tell us. Yes.
Get in there with a picture, and she get a picture with the two.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Rod Elam from MacArthur High School. Guys, when I say your name, come on up here. That way I'll say them all and not make myself look silly. Oklahoma Academic Scholar Samuel Bailey. Oklahoma Academic Scholar, Academic All-State for Excellence in Education, Outstanding Performance in the ACT of 30 or higher, Connor Heffernan. Oklahoma Academic Scholar, National Merit Finalist, and Outstanding Performance on the ACT of 30 plus, Brandon Lawton. And I believe he's practicing for a football game that's going to be played tomorrow night. Oklahoma Academic Scholar Omar Martinez. Oklahoma Academic Scholar Charisma Murray. Oklahoma Academic Scholar and an outstanding performance in the ACT of 30 or higher, Kevin Murray. Oklahoma Academic Scholar, Austin Glenn. They deserve that. Oklahoma Academic Scholar, Taya Oliver. Oklahoma Academic Scholar and Outstanding Performance on the ACT 30 or higher, Kimberly Pham. Oklahoma Academic Scholar, Jacqueline Robertson. Oklahoma Academic Scholar and Outstanding Performance on the ACT, Christy Saliba. And finally, Outstanding Performance on the ACT, Joseph Bona. Okay, picture takers.
For all of the students and parents and friends who came, thank you once again. We'll give you one last round of applause, and then we're going to let you exit. Of course, if the board members have any comments.
I suggest you go get a drink.
Thank you all. Yeah, we'll have a minute or two if you need to go get a...
Yeah.
She's really full of sauce on that punch.
Yeah?
We got a vested interest.
She has a vested interest in it? You'd think,
I'm thinking maybe she made it.
thank you. Nice job.
Well worth the time.
Yes. Okay, item 5 is departmental reports.
Under departmental reports, we have the business services and educational services reports. I'll let them get the door. He's shutting the door.
Okay.
You good? Item 5A is the written report that the board receives. If the board doesn't have any questions over that, I'll move to item 5B.
Okay.
Item 5B is an information item, and for that, we're going to have Ms. Teresa Jackson give us a textbook update. This is a good report.
Good evening. Thank you for letting us come up and talk to you tonight. We're so excited, I brought the whole crew. I'm going to cover the textbooks selection process that we did and the vendors that we chose. Here to help me is Megan Veltheisen, Margaret Plouffe, and Deanna Berkey. We started our selection process earlier in the year. The science vendors that we had set up downstairs were Houghton Mifflin, Activate Learning, Pearson, and Foss Interactive. Those were for science. Social studies was Houghton Mifflin and Pearson. The math vendors were Houghton Mifflin, McGraw-Hill, Pearson, Cengage, College Board, and Eureka Math. We had more math vendors because this was actually an adoption year for math, and they had the caravan. The other ones were not adoption years, so there wasn't as many to choose from. So our vetting process that we followed, I'm going to let Megan and Margaret tell you about that.
Thank you. I'm going to speak to science and social studies. Margaret and I together basically headed up the whole process, but so on science and social studies, they were combined from October 9th through the 13th. We had all of the companies set up downstairs with vendors there to answer our teachers' questions. So it was a come and go before school, after school, during planning, whenever they could stop by. And a selection was made on the 17th of October. They got a vote on a Google form as one vote per school, so they had to get together and make a decision. And then we tallied those votes on the 26th, and there listed is the companies that were chosen. So HMH Science Dimensions was elementary, and then Activate Learning for middle school and high school. And then Pearson, we had to get biology because Activate Learning did not currently have biology. They're revamping it, and we didn't want our teachers to have to wait. This biology book is a brand new biology book anyways. And then social studies, it was across the board HMH. HMH and really a lot of the other companies did not have Oklahoma history, so we reached out and we asked them which one is the best, and the Oklahoma History Press was what we were told was the best. So that's a quick run through of science and social studies, and I'll turn it over to Margaret for math.
Hello. So math was the exact same process as science and social studies were. So April 13th to the 20th, we did the same thing downstairs. We set up samples. Teachers came and looked at their convenience before school, after school, during planning. The selection survey was sent out on April 23rd and was due that same day. It was once again one vote per school. And the selections were calculated on April 24th. Elementary chose HMH, the Saxon version of it, since they had 4 different types. So it was HMH Saxon, middle school and high school McGraw-Hill, and then for the AP courses, Cengage, and for the AP Statistics courses, Pearson. And then once we've calculated all the quotes and everything, May 10th, we went and presented to Dr. Deegan and Dr. Polk, kind of outlining what the purchase quotes are going to look like from each vendor with the details of each purchase. So I'm going to turn it over to Deanna now. She is a math teacher at Lawton High, and she was a great part of this insight on the process. So.
Thank you. Like she said, I teach at Lawton High School, and I was excited to even have the opportunity to go to the caravans and to preview the textbooks. Those students that just got these awards and walked out have never had a new math textbook in their whole school career. So I am so excited about being able to have the opportunity to preview textbooks. I went to a caravan before we had ours here, so I had some samples, so we all looked at them and everything, and then we came, I think all of my teachers made it over to the basement and looked, and then we took our vote. Our vote didn't win, but that's okay because we're still actually our second choice won, so we're still real excited about the opportunity to be able to get new textbooks into the hands of not only our students, but into the hands of those emergency certified teachers and alt certified teachers that have all of their resources in one spot, so that will really help them out and be able to prepare them better to teach our students. Thank you.
Wanted to add that each of the vendors that was selected, they have the online version with the textbooks, so, it's the best of both worlds. Your child can study and do his math or social studies or science or language arts wherever you're at, in the car, wherever. So they can't get out of homework now. I forgot my book, doesn't work anymore. So, because they have access to everything. Also, teachers have access online to everything. They don't have to carry those, huge buckets home filled with books, and they can just get online and do all of their planning. And now it's just great. We've got the world at our hands with the internet and stuff. So, do you have any questions for us?
Do you feel like you got a good sampling of teachers that made their way over?
I do. I don't have the numbers, but we had sign-in sheets.
Okay.
And if I remember correctly, I know for math we had well over 100.
Oh wow. Okay.
And science and social studies we had a very good sampling.
Okay, good.
So.
I think it's so exciting
Oh,
because
yeah, they haven't had a book. I'm sure everybody's really excited.
Well, and every year we do the library book sale. It's a library book sale, and people donate math books and things, and the teachers were coming to the book sale to buy math books to use in their classroom.
Yes.
I'm like, oh.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that you're.
And getting 3 textbooks at the same time is going to be such a great thing.
And Ms. Jackson, will you help everybody understand, because we don't want to get 3 textbooks at the same time, how does that going to work in the fall once we?
Well, we are looking at, and I'm going to talk to principals to make sure that we're, online, but I think secondary can probably take all 3 at the same time because they're going to go to different departments. Elementary, there's no way because they just can't house all of that at one time because obviously elementary teachers teach all 3 subject areas. So we will stagger those orders. My thinking is probably have math come in maybe end of July, August, and then science come in maybe around the first part of September, and social studies coming in the end of September, first part of October. I know academically that's not ideal, but they just can't handle all of them at one time. They don't have the places to store them, get them checked out, and
Can they go online this summer though?
they can.
So they can do their planning.
As soon as we get everything, the POs in and everything, then they will have online access. And actually, they've had online access during the viewing process as well. So they got to see them. They could not only come down in the basement, they were able to go online. And so some of the teachers did that rather than, come up here. But yes, they will have immediate access as soon as we get all
So
the
they could
paperwork
plan
done.
out their.
Exactly. Yes, yes. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Three textbooks adoptions in 1 year is significant. But I also they've also been mindful to think of, as we dispose old textbooks, I know the community is sensitive to that, but before we dispose textbooks, we're going to make sure we can't, A, recycle them, B, see if anybody else can use them, only as a last resort. But I want the community to remember that once we throw a textbook away in this district at this point in our history, it's barely holding on. So, there wasn't a lot of second market options for our textbooks. They've used them for, in some cases, up to 15 years. Wow. So we're very proud of the work of this committee. So, item 5B. Okay, if any questions over item 5B, we'll move on to item 5C. This is a proposed revision to policy CNE1, which is a request for transportation under Barbara Ellis, and I'll let her explain. She'll have item 5C and 5D.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
On item 5C, CNAE1, you previewed this at the last meeting, and so the only thing that we've done here is to add pre-coding so that it would be easier for whoever put in the request to be able to code it properly and for a more legible document. So I ask that you would please consider that one.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
For item 5D, the information items, the review draft for proposals for purchasing regulations for competitive bidding. This is simply for you to take a look at some language that we found in another district's policy that we thought would be apropos for our particular usage. You have Lawton Board of Education at the top of it, but I will tell you that we already have policies by the name of purchasing policy and bid policy, and so we're looking at how we're going to put this nomenclature into our nomenclature. You will see an entirely new document, but the language will contain some of the items that are here. I give this to you for you to take a look at, and next month we will have a proposed policy for you, and then hopefully you will have time to consider it at that time. Questions?
Okay, will we get to see the scores that they put together on this process?
You mean once they bid?
Mm-hmm.
The bid scores, I don't see why not.
Okay, well, just.
I don't have a real answer for you. We usually open them at the same time, and
Right. What my question, what I'm asking basically is, I felt like kind of looking through it, and I may be wrong in my interpretation, but I don't want the board to lose, I don't want us to give up too much of our control. I want to make sure that we still are going to see things, and that's what I was concerned about. Certain areas, it just seemed like we might not even be aware of what was being purchased.
I think you'll still see all of it. You'll see all of it.
That's my
Yes.
clarification, that's
Yes.
what I wanted to know.
You will see all of it.
Okay.
Actually, from what I'm seeing, it appears that we will actually be more aware,
Okay.
from my interpretation, as a whole.
That's the intent, because not only will you be aware of the construction projects, but you'll be aware of goods and services as well.
Right.
When we have a bid, for example, on a building or other projects, the board gets the bid sheet.
Right.
For example, the gasoline tabulation
Right.
is an example. This will be no different. You'll get to see everybody who was in there and the results.
Okay. I have a question, but I don't think it pertains right now, so I'm going to ask it to view later, and then I'll ask it in open session at the next meeting.
Okay.
No?
Are there any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 6, the architect's report. I have Mr. Corey Miller
Again.
with AIP.
You got sunburned today, Corey. Where were you to get sunburned?
I didn't feel like I was outside that long, but I guess it all added up.
I keep sunscreen in the truck if you ever need to worry. I'm just saying, a bald man needs sunscreen in western Oklahoma.
Yeah, I usually do. I was not prepared today.
And I was not equating you with me. I was saying me as a bald man. So, just want you to understand.
He was talking about me, though.
Kent and I need sunscreen.
Yeah. Well, I've got a handout I'll start passing around. I brought 10 copies of this, so I think it should make it through the board and then most of the way around. Yeah, before I begin the presentation on Eisenhower, I just want to acknowledge Jeff Williams. He's a project manager with Crossland Construction. He'll be working on the safe room projects, and he was with us all day today. And I want to thank the board members who came out. I think.
I tried, I couldn't get there.
No, I saw Patty and Mr. Jester there, but I wasn't at every single one of them. We kind of split it. We did multiple ones at the same hour, so we appreciate that. It was great to see the kids out there, and it looks like the community is really appreciative of everything the voters were able to do for them with this bond issue. Want to present the near 95% design on the middle school. This will be a collection of things that we've been reviewing with the site staff and with the district staff all along the way. We are nearing 95% right now. We are collecting all of our drawings and specifications to send to the construction manager, who will have about a week to update pricing. And then we'll get together on the 29th with the district staff to review the current budget and all the stuff we're looking at here tonight. So feel free to stop me with questions. Otherwise, we can wait to the end for questions.
We can what?
We can wait to the end, but if you have any questions, just feel free to interrupt me. So these first images are going to be some that are real familiar. These were used during the promotion, but just want to remind everybody of what we're able to do with the exterior. Main entry here, and then a little fly around of the building. You know, we're on Gore, looking at the northwest corner, and then going clockwise around the building. This would be from the south, kind of looking at it from the high school, our bus entry side, the classroom wing, and then coming full circle there. With our current budget, we're able to maintain the materials that you see in the renderings. You know, it's a collection of brick, ephes, stone wainscot on the bottom, metal panel. Really all comes together to make a really interesting facade. This is the site plan from the preliminary design. This was also seen during the bond promotion. It's nice and colorful, so I wanted to show it again. Wanted to point out a few of the major site items. We'll have a monument sign by Gore. That'll be a digital display, be able to post announcements, images. We may have to dim it at night, but it'll be very nice. We'll have a flag plaza north of admin there. We've been working with city traffic engineers to coordinate on our bus traffic and try to keep all the buses from queuing on Gore and making a left-hand turn. So what we've decided, with some help from transportation and also from Eisenhower High School Principal Charlotte Oates, we're going to be able to come off of 52nd Street, you know, as the buses come from Lee, make our left-hand turn, go past the gym. The 52nd Street project, we're going to coordinate the curb cuts so that the buses have a direct line, don't have to squiggle through all the medians to get through there. They'll come around, and then all the buses will queue facing north on this stretch here. It's wide enough for 2 lanes, it's long enough for 7 buses to stack, and that's the 14 that transportation is recommending. From there, they'll be able to turn left or right on Gore. We're going to coordinate the median cut with the city project. I believe they may be able to help us out there. Okay, drop-off traffic will be focused on this entry on the west side. Right now, you've got a curb cut right here for the existing middle school, and that'll be our 2-lane entry. Cars will come around, line up here so the passenger side can drop off students or pick up students, and then this entry will be able to travel eastbound on Gore, but the city has asked that we close off that median cut so that students or parents or really anybody is not trying to shoot across 4 lanes of traffic. There's a hill there that really blocks visibility. I think it's a good idea. So to go westbound on Gore, those cars would come down here to make that left-hand turn. Right now, we're not talking about putting a signal, but you know, in the future, the city is keeping that possibility open. They want to study the traffic once this is in place. Sidewalk, well, let's see. Yeah, we talked about the engineers. The sidewalks, we've worked with the city. The normal requirement for a site is to take it all the way to your property line. They're not going to have us come all the way down there. There's an ODOT project that is going to put sidewalks on the north side of Gore, and so we're going to coordinate with that and put a crosswalk right here. So that'll terminate our sidewalk right there, and then we'll continue it to the high school with ADA curb cuts through the bus lane there in that median. Practice fields, they don't show up as dark on this projection as they do on my screen, but We've basically got 2 shortened soccer practice fields here for the high school since they're being displaced. If they want a full-size run, they can run the east-west here, but those shortened ones are 80 yards long, so they're the majority of a soccer field.
The band can practice there as well. I mean, they need a full field to practice on.
We are replacing the practice football field right here on the top of the hill once we demo the old middle school. I imagine that's probably where they'll practice band, but I'm sure that'll be discussed with district operations.
They could probably do the half field,
Yeah.
but it's, you gotta pretty much practice on them.
Yeah. There will be a basketball court outdoors right here south of the school. And then we're planning for the detention pond. It'll be small but required, and it'll be here just northeast of the baseball field.
I'm sorry, Corey, what was that? Little box just below?
Right.
No, the other one.
The little,
Right here? Basketball court.
That's a basketball court.
Yes, sir.
Outside of this, oh, okay.
Yeah, just a paved pad with a couple goals.
Oh, okay, I see. An outdoor one.
Yeah.
What about the old cafeteria? Is it in the plans to leave it?
The old cafeteria, we're not going to demolish it, but it'll become a future field house. It'll probably take about $1 million to renovate. We did have to remove it from the scope of the middle school project to stay within budget.
Okay.
The first floor plan, and this kind of coordinates with the handout that I passed around, that's a complete list of all the program spaces, but I'll hit the major ones here tonight. We've got 30 core classrooms, and these are sized for 25 to 30 students as far as the square foot per student calculation recommended for Oklahoma. But according to the fire marshal, they can hold 40 students. So you don't want to put that many in there for teaching, but they can hold it. There's a safe room. I've outlined it here in red. It consists of 8 classrooms, and then the corridor doors shut off and make that whole block tornado safe. It's being designed for ICC 500. That's the standard for structural design. It's also following FEMA 361 guidelines, which means it has ventilation during a storm event. It's got restrooms inside of it. It's designed for a 250-mile-per-hour windstorm.
that's F5, right?
I think it's 4.
4.
But that's the standard.
Okay.
Is that listed on here?
Those details are not.
Okay, I need them again then. How many rooms did you say was in there?
There's 8 classrooms.
Okay.
It'll hold a total population of 1,074. And that exceeds the population of the school. Got a long list here of the other auxiliary spaces. Special education has 5 DI rooms, an ID mild mod room, autism room, ED and MAL. We have electives such as Spanish. We have 2 art classrooms, tech ed, FCLA, band, orchestra, and vocal. We've got the wrestling room with its locker room. We've got a weight room, a referee locker room, 4 home lockers, 2 visitors lockers, a media center here at the core, concessions that would run during athletic events. They're here right at the south side of the auditorium. The Commons is being designed currently with the furniture we have in mind to seat 492 students. That'll mean that the school can maintain their 2-hour lunch or 2 lunch schedule. Vending machines will be located right here against that wall. Keep the kids within supervision, but stay tucked away so they're not really seen from the front door. Our kitchen's here, adjacent to the Commons. It'll have a courtyard access for deliveries right off the south here. Admin block is adjacent to that on the north side of the Commons here. And there is a nurse's station that's been designed for the requirements that the school has recommended for us. There's a courtyard. This entire space can be used as an outdoor classroom. And there's a teacher's workroom on each floor that is adjacent to the circulation stair here. to help maintain and monitor the students during class transitions there.
We had talked early on about the safe room for Eisenhower High School being, you know, that we would populate both in the safe room, and so we're not trying to do that any longer.
I don't believe we're able to do that with this budget. We could expand on the number of classrooms or, you know, maybe make that 2-story, but.
We don't have a safe room at I, right? I mean, we have interior building.
Yeah, they have some safe areas, basement, those sorts of things, but they don't have a safe room, no.
But they were level 1, weren't they?
We put it at levels.
Yeah, they were.
Remember off the top of my head.
We had just talked about making it big enough for both schools to go in there. Of course, Eisenhower would have to go outside and move in, but it is what it is.
Yeah, there's some recommendations on time of travel to get everyone in the safe room. I think 5 minutes might be the max. So it might be a little bit far to try to get everyone loaded into this.
So we just need to do something in the future at Al-Qaeda.
Probably so.
What they have.
Yeah. Traveling to the second floor, the auditorium seats, they go all the way to the front here, but they're showing up very light. We've got 1,478 seats in the auditorium. The large gym here has 1,114 seats. It's made with retractable bleachers on this side so that we can run practice courts, you know, going the other way. And then we have a small gym. The reason for the 2 gyms, when they have tournaments, they need 2 gym floors, and they need adequate seating, so we wouldn't be able to run them side by side there. True. Some other specialty classrooms, skills, English as a second language, math remediation, pull-out testing, ISS. GT and Ag are going to share a classroom at alternating hours. There's 3 computer labs, 2 science labs. We've got specialty offices like physical therapy, occupational therapy, 3 co-teachers, and speech therapy. There's some other details on the handout I gave you, but these are the main spaces. I think we break down admin a little bit more and some of the other auxiliary spaces to athletics. Foundation has always been a big concern. You know, we're replacing a school that's had issues. We have decided, based on recommendations of a geotechnical engineer and studies with community members, we fielded input from other contractors and engineers who've worked in Lawton a long time, and our structural engineer has made a final recommendation of using a pier and grade beam system with a structural slab. That's coming from the geotech finding a plasticity index of our soil from 25 to 30, and a PVR, a potential vertical rise of 0.5 inches under pressure. Those are very expansive soils. So the best thing we can do is to get the slab off the soil, allow it to move underneath the building and not push our slab up. We're finding weathered shale, which is a very extremely weak rock at 5 feet to 15 feet down. And then we're finding shale, which is a weak rock, at 20 to 40 feet down. There's a possible water table at 10 feet, and the seismic site class is C. You know, we knew the soils were bad, but they're really bad. Yeah. We have studied, you know, all the factors, and we do have a solution that is going to be the best to resist this type of soil. We'll be using drill shaft piers. Those are based on skin friction to support the load, and they're anywhere from 24 to 48 inches in diameter. The depth of those will be designed based on the actual bearing capacity of the soil that's being tested during construction. So there's a little bit of an unknown there that will be considered in the contingency that we hold for the project. But in essence, they will go 2 feet past that weathered shale, and then below that, according to how much load they have on them. Some of the more shallow piers were extended based on the need to resist uplift on those piers. So they actually got deeper just to resist the soil pushing us back up. They didn't have the gravity load to hold them down, so they got a little bit deeper. There's a series of grade beams under the slab, and that's what you're seeing in this image here. And then the structural slab will sit on 12-inch carton forms. Our geotech recommended 4-inch carton forms, but after meeting with community members, it seemed like even that wasn't enough air gap under the slab. And so based on those recommendations and, following the advice of the school, we want to move to 12-inch carton forms. A little more expense, but we think it's well spent. As I mentioned, we've been analyzing the uplift on the piers and taking into consideration all the weights of the different materials around the building. And, we've taken all those things into consideration. Above that, there'll be a structural steel frame. I don't really have any images of that to show, but just think of a steel skeleton.
Corey, you said possible water table.
Possible water table, yes, sir.
We had a longer discussion about this. Could you help the board understand why it's possible?
Okay, so we found evidence of water between 9 and 12 feet. So the geotech thinks that seasonally there may be water present at about 10 feet down. However, there was not water present when we drilled for the study. And there's a chance during construction it will be there, and so we're going to hold enough contingency that if we have to case the piers, we have money there to do so.
Also, Corey, how far beyond the facade of the building is the foundation going to extend?
Well, it'll have a stem wall at the face of the building, and so that will act as a a pool wall to keep our moisture out of the soil that's under the building.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I know that the Bond Oversight Committee had recommended that we have someone there to do periodic testing. Have we?
I thought they wanted an engineer there every day.
Right.
Yes, part of the bid will be for construction testing. And there are code-required special inspections that will occur pretty much every day on site, from breaking concrete to testing the loads on the piers that we're drilling. So pretty much every day there's going to be a test run on the activities on site.
That's standard testing. I don't like that term. Who's doing that?
The company has not been selected yet. That'll be one of the...
So it won't be the engineer, though?
It possibly could be. I just talked to him the other day, and he's going to bid on that. The original engineer could very well be that. He's doing some other work in the area, so he should be very competitive.
How many piers are we looking at, do you think?
300 to 400.
Okay. And what
I don't have an exact count, but there's a lot of them.
And what kind of piers are they? Are they going to be like straight, or are they going to be belled? Or
they're not going to be belled because of the potential for water. We can't bell the pier. It may make it a little shallower or a little thinner. But after our meetings with local contractors, the belled piers seem to get uplift more than the straight piers.
Okay.
They will be reinforced concrete piers.
Okay, reinforced?
Yep. They'll have a lot of steel in them.
Okay. All right, you already answered that question and that question, so.
All right.
So when will we know how often they're going to be there and who's going to be the one that's there every day? Because our Bond Oversight Committee, they asked us specific questions, so I want to be sure that we give them the correct answer.
That's part of the bid, though, right?
It's part of the bid. So when the guaranteed maximum price comes in, that'll set who the subcontractor is, basically. As far as knowing when they'll be there, it's basically going to be every day. Whenever there's an activity that requires testing, such as drilling a pier, testing the load on that pier, breaking concrete that was poured that day, driving a truck over a parking area to make sure the soil under it is prepped correctly. When steel goes up, when it's welded, when we have bolted connections, there's all kinds of daily inspections that will be going on. The mechanical system that we're investigating right now and is the front runner is our 4-pipe boiler chiller system. This is going to be the most economic system for a building of this size as far as energy cost efficiency. It's also going to be the system that has the least amount of moving parts to break and maintain. This is a campus system in essence, and it'll have a campus boiler and a campus chiller that'll pump heated or cooled water, well really both, to all corners of the building where it'll be mixed in a mixing box above the ceiling, and that's where the air is treated and then circulated throughout the individual room based on the thermostat demand. Our large spaces like the gym, auditoriums, the commons, those will have air handlers on the roof where that air will be tempered and then pumped into the space.
So there are individual room controls?
There are individual room thermostats, correct. Now, there is still a series of ductwork. Now, you know, the hot and cold water is circulated through piping, which is taking up very little real estate in the building, but we'll still have ductwork to bring in outside fresh air for ventilation. And that's what you're seeing in this diagram here. There'll be a centralized building control system, and that'll help you program when the system's running. You know, shut down certain areas after hours automatically, or pre-cool certain areas before students come into the gym during the summer, for example. It will not be overly sophisticated. We're not following lead here, so I know some of the frustrations that have come along with some other projects that should not be here with this type of system.
In a system like that, can we is there, you know, if you give them all the freedom to have heat and cool,
Yep.
some of them will have it down to 61 and have it up to 85, is there?
With a system like this, you can set a range of, say, 4 degrees, and they can bump it one way or the other.
And it's zoned, so you don't have to have the whole building on if you're just in the gym.
That's right, that's right.
Because I'd have it at 60 if it was me.
Yeah,
I'd put it
but
at
you-
60.
There's a small key plan down here that shows the different quadrants of the building. This is the southwest corner. Your main entry is right here. And this diagram is coming from this southwest corner. So that's the large gym that you're seeing right there. Your chiller plant and your boilers will be located right off of that corner. Your kitchen is kind of over here if it were showing up on that diagram. Your chillers, they're pretty large, but you see how small the boilers have become. You know, modern technology has really shrank those down. Site utilities, just want to give an overview of where we're coming from the mains. Power, it's been decided that that'll be secondary metered. Basically, PSO will bring a primary conductor all the way onto the site and set a transformer that'll be owned and maintained by PSO. In order to do that, we do need to grant them an easement. Domestic water will come off of a new line off of Gore. That's one of the lines being replaced as part of that street project. Fire service water will come in at the same place. Sanitary sewer, we're routing that around the building and tying into a new city line here. As part of the Gore Street project, the city is going to help extend sanitary sewer all the way to this manhole and really save a lot of expense, and they're definitely owed some thanks for that. Storm sewer, there's different places where it will leave the building, but in essence it all routes down here and then, you know, past the detention pond out to 52nd Street. Gas will be brought in from the existing meter down to our highest demand at the boiler and then distributed throughout the building. Fiber optics, we're going to intercept an existing line that used to snake around here and serve the middle school. We'll set a new vault right there and enter the building. Telephone, there's a pedestal here that'll bring that line into the building. And telephone will mainly just be used for our fire alarm system and the elevator emergency system, and also having a dedicated line for the safe room area. Electrical systems, all the lighting will be LED. That'll come along with a lot of rebate potential from the electric company, PSO. Here's a sample of one of the typical classroom fixtures. The fire alarm system will be an addressable system. You'll be able to tell which room has an issue and go find it, be it smoke or just a bad device. There'll be access control as a security system. You'll have card swipes at select doors that'll be able to track who's coming in and out, and you'll also be able to schedule that. And part of that function is going to allow us to do a secure vestibule entry. This is a blow up of the main entry. Here's admin. So for instance, before the bell rings, if you've got drop-off traffic, those doors can be scheduled to be unlocked and everybody free flows in. Let's say class starts at 8 o'clock. Those doors can automatically lock at that hour, and anyone coming in after that will then be channeled through this vestibule to the waiting room of the reception area in admin. From there, the receptionist can grant them permission to enter the rest of the building. She'll be able to buzz them in. If she doesn't do that, they can't get in the rest of the building. One thing that does for us, though, is prevents some certain flows of traffic. So one thing we're going to do for security is make these doors off of that reception room lockable, so that, as you can see, this door swings in. You'll be able to lock that area off from the rest of admin, so that students from the commons area can't have free access into the admin area after hours, for instance. Our data system, we'll be bringing fiber optic communication into the building to our main distribution, and then from there we'll take data all the way to IDF points throughout the building. We have a 300-foot cable length run, basically a restriction. So we'll have distributed intermediate point access or distribution points. From those, we'll take cables to each classroom where they'll terminate above the ceiling. Lawton Public Schools will come in after construction and put an access point there that'll complete the connection into the wall drops. The individual classrooms will have basically 3 terminated wires when we finish construction. There'll be one at the teaching wall for the technology screens there, and then there'll be 2 by the teacher's desk to plug in the phone and the computer. But there'll be drops on every single wall, and those will be able to be connected if you want additional hardwired connections in the future. Most of the school is going to be run off of Wi-Fi, though, so it's a good place to start without wiring every single wall.
So where will when the kids come in the morning, they have to go through the security scanners? Are they in that X? And is there a place to store those? They're always out in the middle of the...
That is a good question. Those could be put here in the vestibule or just immediately in front in the commons area. We do have a lot of storage under the upper part of the balcony of the auditorium, in essence. That'd be a great place to store them right there.
Because they can get in the way during the day.
Yeah, they're kind of unsightly too. There'll be Wi-Fi hotspots in places, common spaces like the Commons, Media Center, Gym, Auditorium. There'll be intercom to each room. Rooms that don't need callback buttons will still have speakers, so that if there are any drills that need to be run, they still hear those calls. The phone system will be a voice over IP phone system, but that will be provided by Lawton Public Schools after construction. The other system that'll be by owner is the camera system. Any other questions on that?
Monitors, I assume, are there going to be the TV monitors? It's all by us, right?
That'll all be part of the camera system. There's so many options there that it's usually best to work with the vendor of your choice to really tailor that package down. But the infrastructure will be there. There'll be lots of internet throughout. On Tuesday, I met with the staff of Eisenhower Middle School, and we actually laid out all the physical samples of all the materials so we could touch and feel and put them next to each other and see how everything coordinated. Everyone was very happy, very thrilled with what they saw. Some of the golds on this screen look a little green, but
they were gold, though.
I assure you they're gold, and they coordinate with the purple very well. These are interior renderings that show how those materials are applied, and these are our design concepts. This is basically coming in the front door, and you can see the auditorium entries here with the concessions, the media center at the back. This is kind of the same view, except the other side of the commons. That's your gym wall right there. And then at the other side of the commons, looking back towards the main entry, you can start to see the entry to the kitchen right here. This is the hallway going down to the elective wings, where we've got art and band and vocal, all that. This is our kitchen entry. It's very open, very inviting. Students should be able to see everything going on back there, and hopefully it'll pull them in. Our tray drop be right beside the main entry to the kitchen area. This is in the serving line looking back towards the commons. Shot of our reception desk. Some detail on the media center entry. What you're seeing up here is actually a true-to-life representation of the artwork that we've prepared for this area. It's a vinyl graphic print that'll have kind of a wood grain behind it, and some imagery of Vikings and sailing ships and lots of cool stuff.
How big is the media center?
The media center has 3 different areas. I don't have a square footage off mine, but I'll kind of walk you through those areas. The first one you're seeing here, these are some movable tables for a meeting area. This will hold up to 100 people for things like FCA in the morning, teacher training, all staff meetings, things like that. You're looking back into the stacks there. I don't have the volume count in mind, but it is on the handout. This is our circulation desk. One cool thing to point out, all these colored panels that you're seeing up here, some of them are decorative, but some of them are light fixtures. That whole thing acts as one unit. And then looking back at that meeting area towards the commons. All right. Well, that concludes my slides, but if there's any questions, I'd be happy to talk through anything.
Looks awesome.
Well, we're very excited, and we hope you are too.
Yeah, definitely. I hate to miss the groundbreaking.
Yeah, so there will be a groundbreaking the afternoon, 2:45 on May 22nd. So we'll be back in town for that, and hope to see you then. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Corey. Good job. Okay, item 7, report of the superintendent.
Under item 7A, I have, the board has a copy here of, this is a student information program report covering the furniture, technology, and equipment program funding. I wanted to give the board an update where we are and also review some of the program funding amounts. Let me explain what the first 2 sheets are. The first 2 sheets are, when we first started this process and began engaging staff, we asked the principals to ask their coaches, their fine arts teacher, their band teachers, what kind of amounts of funds would they like? This is strictly a needs-based from their perspective. These give you an idea of what responses we got. So, for example, on band and orchestra, we got anywhere from $36,000 a year to $57,000 a year down to, we just need a couple, $150.
But they're not all on here. Lot wise.
570,000.
Well, over 10 years, so I went and divided.
I've seen that now. It's like, whoa.
Not everybody participated in the deadline. I did receive most people's information via either email or a piece of paper, but
Because I know there's some drastic needs at the high schools.
There are drastic needs everywhere, yes, especially at the high schools. And then on athletics, health, PE, this covered all competitive sports and everything, and we had everything from a request of $175,000 a year down to, again, just a couple $100 would make them happy. And if you'll see, most elementary schools, the teachers, and this is durable equipment that'll last for a significant amount of time. Most of the schools were happy at the elementary level if they could just get a few $100s a year for their program to replace durable items. Some of the high items were not necessarily supported with documentation or anything, but again, this was an initial discussion. We had other meetings, of course. I met with AG teachers in person, met with the band and orchestra people. I know Ms. Nyworth, you've met with them several times. Met with the athletic directors, trying to figure out what things were important to them and what kind of a plan would work.
So we'll have a more comprehensive list when it comes time to release.
Oh, that's on the 3rd page.
Yeah.
The 2nd page kind of gives you an idea of what the questions were on the libraries, other electives, and fine arts and performing arts. And as you can see, the library requests were anywhere from $25 per student, which or $10,000 a year, all the way were the high points, and then the low points were as little as $2,000 a year. It gives you a range of what the principals, speaking on behalf of their libraries, were requesting. Other electives were in there, and there were different things included in there, and then fine arts and performing arts to separate it from band and orchestra. Those amounts, and I think that's really illustrative of how our teachers, in some ways, would just be happy with a few $100s a year. And we had a lot of meetings about how, you know, nobody's going to drown overnight. It's going to take time to rebuild and restore some of these things. The third page, I just wanted the board to have perspective on what staff asked for. The third page is when we originally started these discussions the last time I met with individual board members prior to the election. At that point, it was still a 10-year process, but it became 11 years. So what I did is I adjusted those amounts. Everything except for libraries, I kept them at $9 per student because that used to be the state funding formula, roughly. It changed on grade level occasionally from what I understand. But what we did is I adjusted these from a 10-year to 11-year plan, so that reduced them a little bit. And so to keep in line with what we were talking about back then, was libraries, $9 per student. That needs to stay static. That will pretty much drive this budget. Athletics, health, and PE, which covers all sports, including baseball, softball, track, soccer, etc. Come in at that amount, $182,000. Band, orchestra, and music, $105,000. Other electives, $60,000. Ag ed for the high schools would be $14,000 per site, $42,000, and then elementary non-core, about $40,000. Those would be for elementary, music, PE, and other needs at the sites.
Is there going to be anything in there for the school farm?
That's what the $14,000 per student for ag ed.
It's included in that
is something.
The farm is.
Yes,
okay.
and then in addition to that, there are other things here to help offset this. In addition to that, the bond, after about the third or fourth year, we have specifically in the bond ag on another level. So ag will get 2 doses or 2 infusions. Libraries also will get support with the technology side in addition to this $9 per student, as well as the other core teachers. But this is based on our last discussion. What I wanted to do before shared this with staff, make sure the board had a chance to look at it. This is in line with our last discussions, but I wanted to make sure, you know, of the programs, I think band, orchestra, and the music are probably the most behind. But if you go to the number of students in those programs versus the number of students in athletics, it's pretty, you know, there are a lot more students in those programs. But that drove the $550,000. It leaves a little bit in there just in case. $555 is what we planned.
Sorry, did I miss something? What's the elementary non-core? What is that?
Well, originally I had put all that's athletics, art, music.
That's, okay.
Yeah.
So they can, is it school by school, they can decide?
What this comes out to be at the moment is about $6 per student.
Okay.
That way it would be equitably between the schools, and they would, the principals through the bond committees would help decide what that was. What we didn't want to do is the elementary music, art, fine arts, orchestra get lost in the shuffle with the secondary.
Okay.
It seems like a very small amount, but as you can see from what the elementary PE teachers and fine arts people requested, it really meets their request pretty well, about $6 per student. So, for example, in Edison, which is 500 kids, you know, that's a good chunk of money, $3,000. If I'm doing my math right.
Well, and one reason some people have dropped out of band is there are no instruments to give them. There are no, you know, so maybe this will.
And we really wanted to get this in place earlier, but if ever, I remember Eisenhower Middle School was the first priority, the safe rooms were second priority. Yeah. The other part of this report covers the furniture and technology teams. we did have a delay in the middle of the semester, which did put us behind about 6 weeks. We're doing our best. The staff is working diligently. I know those meetings have been going on for the last couple of weeks very consistently. But we're hope to have everything in place where all of the orders can take place for those items at the beginning of the next early in July or August. We hope to be able to communicate these amounts with the staff so they can be planning over the summer. But I wanted to get input from the board. It's not really an action item, but I wanted to get input and feedback before. If this may be something we bring back as an action item, but I wanted the board to have input before I communicated with the staff on the items.
I'm not for sure we can have an action item, because I think it's going to fluctuate some.
You're correct.
Right.
That's the way I see it. It's more of a budgeting item. I just wanted the board to be aware.
Right.
I believe it's equitable. I believe it's in line with what we discussed, but a lot of months have passed, and I can't believe how much has happened in 1 year. So it seems like 10 years ago we discussed this.
Yep.
But this was part of
I
our...
think this is a great start.
I think so, too.
That's going to make a huge difference in each and every school.
Yep.
There are some, and Ms. Nyworth, there are some things that we are still exploring for band and orchestra. I want you to know that, but
Yeah, the band uniforms.
it's a matter of how much we've been able to manage all at once, getting it in place. And we don't want to get it in place in a haphazard way.
Oh,
So
I understand.
it's still high on
We
our...
were hoping to have uniforms at Lawton High,
Yes.
but we won't this year.
But there are some options we still have. But I want to make sure the board understood the project, the 3 different pots of money, which are the furniture, the technology, and the program equipment funding, which is what this has. And just to get any impact or input or feedback if the board had any.
When we're going to implement, I know, starting 2018, 2019, how will that be doled out to each school? Will we just give them one lump sum, and they're...
That's what makes this so difficult, and poor Ms. Diane Brinstetter and Ms. Brownhill are, we need time to get these things in place.
Right.
But the amounts, for example, each middle school, for example, let's say Central Middle School, getting the 14,000, then we'll have to figure out internally then how to, and so that process, we already have the site bond committee process.
Right.
Mr. Dees will have to take a very active role in making sure and consider. We have situations, for example, where a site maybe because of a change of staff members or change of principals, they didn't account for the need, for example, to get their helmets conditioned, which costs about $100 a
I wasn't
helmet.
even thinking about helmets, about athletics.
We wouldn't be able to pay for conditioning, but we would be able to pay for new helmets. So what we need is a longer-term approach so they can realize, the important part is they'll know they'll have this amount of money on an annual basis so they can really start to plan ahead for instruments, for...
Yeah, instrument repair and things.
But it'll work out, where, say they want 14,000, but it came out to be 12,500. They don't get to keep the extra money, it goes back.
Every year we have to kind of start over. This will be money that they'll have to have a plan before they're getting it.
Right, that's what I'm...
But there's plenty of needs out there.
Absolutely.
Plenty of needs.
Yeah, but I'm glad they're building, SIP committees will be working on that.
Those processes have been in place for 3 years now, and they've been functioning extremely well.
Okay.
I have a lot of faith in our principals and their committees at the moment.
Just how it's getting it to them is all on.
And so if I'll probably proceed with this unless anybody has any concerns, but I just want to at least get feedback. They'll be glad to hear this before they go home for the school year. All right.
It's good to me.
All right. Thank you. Y'all made that is it's a big deal for our, I remember, and I'm going off on a little bit of a, but it's on topic. I remember 2 years ago, I don't mean to get emotional, but they were so happy to get, we ordered some things through the SIP committee, and they were so happy. Teachers were so happy to get them. Last year, they were so happy to get textbooks, and then now we're doing 3, and we have, actually, Ms. Jackson is starting on foreign language, so we're going to be able to hit foreign language early next year. But to see these things happen to our teachers and their classrooms, and our students get so excited over books, they couldn't stand it. So it just makes me proud. On one hand, I'm ashamed it's taken so long. On the other hand, I'm just proud we're finally getting there. So I think the board and our staff just you all deserve a lot of credit.
Well, I can't wait to see too how the online access, the textbooks, how that progresses with the students, because knowing them, that's what they're gonna do.
So that's kind of a side note, but I think the board and the community, I just couldn't praise everybody enough for how this has happened. But any other questions over item
Whatever item that was.
7A?
No.
No? Okay, side item 7B, I just have a couple quick announcements. Again, don't forget, if board members, if you haven't signed up for the Lawton Public Schools Foundation, and in the audience, there's a sign-up sheet on the Norma's desk out there. We get a discounted rate, $40.
Yes, you do.
Unless you're, yes.
Some of us paid for it.
If you were too early to an early bird, you paid a little extra. I can put a good word in for you.
That's okay.
But that is important. Also, the groundbreaking again next week on the 22nd. We have graduation next week, on Thursday and Friday. It'll be an extremely busy week. But in addition to that, I want to mention that Crosby Park Elementary placed first in the annual Goodwill fundraising drive.
Awesome.
That is, and so Whataburger will be giving them a $1,000 check and gift bags, which is, I went to that event last year at Adams. It was a lot of fun. They have a big blow-up Whataburger fellow. That was a lot. I kind of wanted to wear the costume. Lawton Community Foundation recently awarded scholarships to students from Lawton and the surrounding area. 3 seniors from MacArthur and 4 from Eisenhower awarded scholarships up to $2,000 apiece. And those students were at Eisenhower High School, Paul Bellafato, Mitchell Sadler, William Jones, and Amira Rashid, and at MacArthur High School, Alia Nunu, Trevor Poole, and Colleen Parker. And then finally, we just got notice about Freedom Elementary being approved for, get this correct, gold status on the healthy. Again, that's the second time in a row, so that's a big deal for Freedom Elementary. We hope to infuse the rest of the district with that mindset. So unless the board has any other questions, that's my report.
Very good. Next item is the approval of the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything that needs to be pulled?
I have one thing that needs to be pulled. Let me get back to my notes.
I wanted to talk about catapult. A number that I lost now. I had it here a second ago.
We've had requests that item 8F1C, Life Touch for Central Middle School be pulled.
I'd like to pull 8F1A.
And we're on 8F1C, there'll be no, I won't recommend any action on that. So I would recommend the board bring that back.
Anybody like to make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion for the balance of the consent agenda.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay, item 8F1A.
I just had a question. We've done this before. I'm just what are we getting a beneficial, what are we getting out of this catapult? What does it
Fortunately,
bring
we
back
have
to us?
several people in our,
Several people here.
Yeah,
Teresa.
yeah.
Teresa, would you like to address that?
I mean, we just approve things
And
without
Dr.
actually
Holmes,
hearing what they do for us.
Catapult learning is actually literacy first training. And with our RSA program with pre-K all the way through 5th grade, we do literacy first assessment to meet the RSA, the reading sufficiency law. And that's one of the assessments that we use. And literacy first training, we offer it every summer for elementary and secondary. It's very good teaching strategies. It also teaches assessment, writing, all of the areas for reading, all the foundational skills, and teaches teachers basically how to teach those things. So a lot of our new teachers attend every year.
Choose who gets to go.
I send it out to the principals, and then they let me know. And we've, we have a lot of teachers that's been trained. That sometimes, when we hire afterwards, then you have teachers in the building that can help them. But, we just offer this every year, and that's what we use for RSA. That meets the reading sufficiency law, that part of the assessment.
So they apply to go, and then you...
Yes, and I pay for it with RSA funds, and then we also pay for the secondary out of grants.
Right. when you say we may get employment from that, how does that work? How do we get?
Not employment, but when we hire.
I mean, hire is what I meant.
Hire the new teachers, they attend. The principals will send me their names, and then they'll attend the week session. We do it in, it used to be it's a 5-day session, but now we do a working lunch, so I've cut it down to 4 days, same hours. But, you know, it's a very good training, and, you know, if you ever wanted to come, you know, you're welcome to come in. Yeah, and, but it's very worthwhile, and like I said, that's what we use for assessment for the Reading Sufficiency Act.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, make a motion we approve.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay, we have a proposed executive session. I
Move for
believe.
executive session.
Somebody second?
Oh, second. Sorry.
Sorry, who made the motion?
Ms. Nyworth,
Who made the second?
I did.
Ms. Klopfelter.
We were talking about something else. Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes,
Ms.
ma'am.
Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. reconvene.
I make a motion, we reconvene, I just shut mine down. I'm good.
Call roll, please.
Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Statement of executive session minute for May 17th, 2018. The Board of Education went into executive session at 6:20 p.m. Members present included Kent Jester, President, Carla Clodfelter, Vice President, Patty Nyworth, Dr. Lori Bridges. Others present included Tom Deegan, Superintendent. Items discussed included the employing, promoting, or receiving resignations of individual and certified and support salaried personnel as listed on the certified and support personnel reports, the selection of executive director of secondary education, the selection of elementary principal, the assignment of elementary building administrative staff for 2018-2019. During the executive session, the board discussed these items, no other items, and no action was taken. The board returned to open session at 6:35 p.m. This constitutes the minutes of the executive session. Okay, superintendent's personnel report.
Under item 13A, I have the approval of certified and support personnel reports.
Move for approval.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Under item 13B, I have the selection of executive director of secondary education, and for that position, I recommend Ms. Kelly Trinidad.
Move for approval.
Second. Okay, go ahead.
I didn't. You.
Call roll, please.
Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Under items 13C, I have the approval of selection of elementary principal to be assigned building at the June board meeting, Megan Johnson.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
And for item 13D, I recommend no action. We'll have, that's not quite ready for the recommendation today.
Okay. Item 14, oh, I'm
No, wait,
sorry, we
back.
have to go back.
Yes.
Yes.
We pulled item 8F1C, which was a Central Middle School's contract. There were two aspects of that contract. They intended only for me to pull the yearbook portion of that contract. And so I would like to ask the board to act on 8F1C for the pictures portion of that contract.
All right, I make a motion to accept.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay, item 14, is there any new business? Having none, our next regular board meeting date is Monday, June 4th, here at 5 p.m.
May 29th.
We have a special board meeting scheduled for May 29th,
And we will do that here.
and we'll be here.
Yes, it's at 5.
5 o'clock.
Do we have any board announcements? Okay,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
call roll, please.
Ms. Klopfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
President's job.